There are many different ways to read the Bible. You could read it in chronological order, where you would start with the books that scholars believe were written first and then go from there. You could start with either the Old Testament or the New Testament. You could jump around between chapters like we did in Bible study when I was young, or you could read it cover to cover. Strangely, I was actually taught to start with the New Testament and then read the Old Testament as a sort of way to gain perspective. Essentially, reading it from Genesis to Revelation was considered to be too confusing for the average Christian, I guess. But I was also taught that the Bible is supposed to be meaningful to all people in all walks of life, and the average person who picks up a book isn't going to start with the last 30 chapters. Of course, the average person who picks up a book is going to, upon seeing that there's hundreds of chapters to it, put it right back down, which is why most Christians' Bibles are probably just gathering dust in the corner. But in the spirit of being an average person, I'm going to be reading this cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation. I'm also going to be giving my perspective, comparing what I was taught as a young Christian to how I view these words now as an atheist. I'm reading from the Holman Christian Standard Bible, and that's mostly because it's the only copy I've kept over the years. It was a gift from my university in my freshman year of college, and it's a favorite of the Southern Baptist Convention, which is the world I grew up in. I'll leave a link to a review of this translation in the description. If you like what I'm doing here, hit the like button and subscribe to see where we go with this. If you feel that I'm reading this incorrectly, leave a comment and don't be afraid to hit the dislike button. I'm open to criticism, and I truly enjoy interacting with different perspectives. I would love to hear from you. And without further ado, let's begin. In my most dramatic voice, of course. Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness covered the face of the watery depths, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and he called the darkness night. Evening came, and then morning, the first day. Then God said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters, separating water from water." So God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above the expanse. And it was so. God called the expanse sky. Evening came, and then morning, the second day. Then God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and he called the gathering of the water seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and fruit trees on the earth, bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds." And it was so. The earth produced vegetation, seed-bearing plants according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Evening came, and then morning, the third day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night. They will serve as signs for festivals and for days and years. They will be lights in the expanse of the sky to provide light on earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to have dominion over the day, and the lesser light to have dominion over the night, as well as the stars. God placed them in the expanse of the sky to provide light on earth, to dominate the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. Evening came, and then morning, the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the water swarm with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." So God created the large sea creatures and every living creature that moves and swarms in the water according to their kinds. He also created every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So God blessed them. Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth. Evening came, and then morning, the 5th day. Then God said, let the earth produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, creatures that crawl, and the wildlife of the earth according to their kinds. And it was so. So God made the wildlife of the earth according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and creatures that crawl on the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. They will rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, all the earth, and the creatures that crawl on the earth. So God created man in his own image. He created him in the image of God. He created them male and female. God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every creature that crawls on the earth. God also said, look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant on the surface of the entire earth, and every tree whose fruit contains seed. This food will be for you, for all the wildlife of the earth, for every bird of the sky, and for every creature that crawls on the earth, everything having the breath of life in it. I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Evening came, and then morning, the 6th day. Okay, so when I was a kid, I was taught all kinds of things about these passages, but number one was that they were meant to be taken literally. This was not just poetry, it was literal truth. And even as a kid, I had some major problems with that. So I want to preface this by saying that in the days before I could read, I was taught that God created everything we see out of nothing. I was taught that man was formed from dust, but everything else was just spoken into existence. That's going to be important in a moment. Let's look at Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 for just a moment. The Holman Christian Standard Bible has footnotes about these verses that reflect what I came across on my initial research on this, and I think these notes are very enlightening. Essentially, the verses can also be read like this. In the beginning, when God began to create the sky and the earth was formless and empty. Darkness covered the surface of the watery depths, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. It sounds like God isn't starting with nothingness. Instead, he's starting with something most gods in other creation myths told in the surrounding areas started with, a watery chaos. I can't say whether this debunks the Christian tradition of God creating everything from nothing because, well, I already tried that in a conversation with a Christian not long ago, and their defense was that God must have created the watery chaos first and then formed everything else out of it, and also that I could not prove that the word made in Hebrew meant formed and not magically spoken to existence, as I was originally taught, of course. But to me, reading this with no Christian tradition in mind, I would assume that this story, at the very least, begins with God and the watery chaos already in existence. There's no moment where God creates the waters. They're just there. The other thing that really gets me is the separation of the waters to form the expanse. There's another note here that defines the expanse for the reader. It says, the word for expanse is from a root meaning to spread out, beat firmly, which suggests something like a dome. And it gives the other verses where this word is used. And if you're familiar with the flat earthers, this is where some of those ideas come from. It always bothered me, too, that the sky was an expanse of water. I mean, I knew as a child that the only water in the sky was the water in the clouds, because by the time I could read, I was flying back and forth from the States to the island where I lived. So these lines always made me rather uneasy. I never noticed this as a child, but I think it's kind of weird that plants are created before the sun. For that matter, it's weird that day and night are created before the sun, and that the moon is considered a source of light at all. And finally, men and women are created at the same time. That's interesting to me. They also seem to start out as vegetarians, which is also interesting. I think most evangelicals would claim that God made us to be meat eaters, but this shows the ultimate goodness of the world God made to be without death for man or animal. I'm going to stop there, but I hope you enjoyed my reading of Genesis 1. Feel free to critique my perspective in the comments, and be on the lookout for the next one.